Could we enable the general chat? Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna go to do that right away. And sorry for the disabling the chat. Okay, let us just start with the webinar, and then I will also enable the chat as we go. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody, depending where in the world you're zooming in from. Thank you for joining us today. We are delighted to share with you our next Hyperledger In-depth webinar with Indicio on scaling verifiable digital credentials using open source technology. We're very excited about today's presentation. My name is Tomáš Sedej, and I'm an ecosystem manager at the Hyperledger Foundation. Today, I will have a chance to introduce the panelists and also take you through some housekeeping. And as usual, if you attended some of our other Hyperledger In-depth webinars, we first have some housekeeping rules. First, everybody is welcome in our Hyperledger global community. We are striving to create a safe and welcoming environment for all. So please follow the Hyperledger Code of Conduct when interacting with each other and while talking to others in the community as well. You can find our Code of Conduct on our wiki and also on our webpage. All Hyperledger Foundation member webinars are held under the Linux Foundation antitrust policy, which you can find on our wiki and on our event page as well. We are recording this webinar and the recording will be available within our webinar library along with the slides. So you can always go back and review whatever has been discussed today. We are also live on YouTube, and welcome to everybody also joining us there. Now, we encourage these sessions to be as active and engaging as possible. So please raise the hand and raise the hand button and ask to get unmuted, and I will do so. And of course, the more activity and participation we will have, the better experience everyone will have. You can also post questions in the chat while I enable it and the Q&A box, and this will be then relayed to our panelists at the end of the session. For those of you whose questions will not get answered, we will also encourage you to join our Discord channel, which I will also share at the end of the presentation, and ask your questions there. Now, without further ado, I'm very happy to introduce our panelists, which is James, who is a Vice President of Business Development at Indicio, and also Mike, who is an Enterprise Software Team Lead. We are looking very much forward to this webinar, and James and Mike, over to you.
All right, thank you, Thomas. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We're very excited to be here. Let me go ahead and share my screen, and we'll get started. So yeah, thanks for joining today. We're very excited to be here to demo Indicio Proven. As Thomas had mentioned, this is a solution that we recently released. It's built on open source technology and can be used by enterprises, by organizations, by individuals to get started with verifiable credentials and decentralized identity technology. It can be used to create a complete open source trusted digital ecosystem and can be configured to specific use cases or pain points that your organization or your customers are dealing with. We are very excited and proud member of the Hyperledger Foundation and are thankful to the support that we get from the foundation as well as other contributors in the community. We happily contribute back to the community as well, and we think that collaboration and the open source contributions from individuals and organizations in the space is really what's leading to the adoption and driving forward of this technology. And so a lot of those in the audience today are members of the community, and so we thank you for your active participation as well. So I'm sure most of you are familiar or have at least heard of Hyperledger Indy, Aries, and Ursa, and maybe have somewhat of an understanding of the underlying technology that makes verifiable credentials possible. Today we'll see it in action and how it all how it all comes together. To give a little bit of background context, the problem that this solves regarding digital identity stems from the well-known fact that originally the internet was created without that critical identity layer for people, entities, and things. And as the world becomes more increasingly digital, especially in the last 2.5 years with the global pandemic, people migrating to a more online centric or digital centric lifestyle, digital identity becomes a crucial piece to making everyday life possible. And for interactions to happen online, there needs to be trust between people, places, and things. So as that massive digital scaling has happened, it's become difficult for organizations to tackle the authentication challenges while protecting the privacy of those involved and doing it in a secure manner. So it's a major pain point. Not only is it painful, it costs a lot of money for businesses, for enterprises, and for customers. It just makes for a cruddy experience. For businesses, for example, dealing with the hacks and breaches that come as a result of not being able to verify who it is on the other side that you're dealing with. The loss of productivity of employees having to change their passwords or deal with cumbersome two-factor authentication, 3-factor authentication, and just earlier today I saw 4-factor authentication. So hopefully it doesn't go beyond that, but this is where verifiable credentials come in and make it a lot more streamlined for people to be able to interact online. There was a recent report that the annual cost for the global economy as a result of digital identity related fraud, hacks, breaches, all those sorts of things is 5.38 trillion. Here in the United States alone, last year, it was upwards of $52 billion for businesses and enterprises, private organizations dealing with identity-related challenges. So it's a major pain point. It costs lots of money, and so it's something that organizations are looking to figure out. So there's a better way to the way that digital identity has been managed so far through federated ID or through traditional identity providers, which are convenient and are very useful in a lot of situations, but have struggled to manage the challenges of increasing threats online and more complicated systems of ID spoofing or complicated hacks and breaches. So this is where trusted digital ecosystems come in. Creating ecosystems where trust is an intrinsic part of what occurs, being able to trust all the parties involved in the interactions. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with what some refer to as the trust triangle. We think this is a basic diagram of what a trusted digital ecosystem looks like. So you have the main participants being issuers here on the left. You have your holder or the person receiving the credential up at the top. And then you have your verifying organizations down at the bottom. Involved in that is a form of a registry for verifiable data. Some call it a verifiable data registry. Some call it the ledger, decentralized identity network. There's a couple different terms for it, but that's the concept is the same. So in this relationship, there's the issuer organization who has taken efforts to establish identity and through some manner, either performing KYC or having proved some sort of aspect about an entity or a person, and packaged that into a verifiable credential. And then anchoring the schemas and the DIDs of those entities down to the ledger, and then issuing that credential to the holder, where it's then held in some sort of digital wallet, whether that's a cloud-hosted wallet or on device or a community type wallet. There's different variations of it. The holder with that credential can now present that to a verifying organization who can with the surety know that the information therein truly did come from that issuer and has not been tampered with in the process. Checking the keys on the network, verifying that the original location of the issuer is a trusted organization in their opinion or according to their ecosystem rules, can know that the information being presented to them is correct. And that allows for the holder to make some sort of transaction or participate in some service or get access to some type of thing. So let's take a bank, for example, issuing a customer credential to customer. That customer can take that credential either back to the bank to be verified, or if the bank has partnering organizations who have chosen to accept that credential, can and trust that bank as an issuer, can allow that customer to participate in some activity on their end as well. So that's the gist of a trusted digital ecosystem. Now, the software behind it is what we're going to see today with Proven, that makes all of this possible based on open source. But right now, we'll do a little context on currently the landscape of the verifiable credential the space. Some of the challenges have been one-off type solutions or the lack of interoperability between wallets or ecosystems, or providers that focus on one thing. And so we noticed that a lot of enterprises were struggling to find a complete ecosystem that they could implement and use right off the bat. So this is where Indicio Proven comes in, based on the Hyperledger Indy, Aries, and Ursa protocols, based on that open source technology. It's a complete ecosystem that comes with all of the components needed to issue, hold, and verify digital credentials, based on a Hyperledger Indy network and using an Aries-based wallet, which we'll see demonstrated today. So it's a complete starter kit, so organizations can pick it up and integrate it into the systems that they already have. They don't need to spin up their own or create their own issuing agents or verifier agents. Everything in the package comes with what they need. It comes with what they need to start issuing credentials right away based on their credential needs. It's capable of being customized, and you can add new functionality into it as needed and as you scale up your use case. So how does Proven create a trusted digital ecosystem? As mentioned, it comes with the different software components needed to issue, hold, and verify credentials. So what we're about to see in the demo, we're going to see the Proven issuer, where an organization, an enterprise can not only create but issue credentials to the correct individuals who will receive that credential in their holder agent or their mobile wallet. And today we'll be looking at the Holder Plus digital wallet, which at Indicio we announced yesterday, which we're excited to do a little showcase as part of this demonstration to show how it can receive credentials as part of the Proven ecosystem. The holder who now has that credential can present it and then use the Proven verifier to verify the credential that they received. Today's demonstration is based on the Indicio test network or a demo network, and showcases how a Hyperledger Indy network can be used for this. In general, the Proven ecosystem can be connected with any Hyperledger Indy network of choice, any of the existing networks, or a private network can be spun up to be connected to it as well. Because it is based on those open source protocols, Indy, Aries, and Ursa, it's interoperable with other Aries wallets, other Aries related ecosystems, and other Indy networks. So looking down at the Proven issuer agent, as well as the Proven verifier agent, or what we call enterprise agents, they're based on the Hyperledger Aries protocols. So they're using Akamai, Aries Cloud Agent Python. They're server-based agents with a JavaScript controller. The wallet, so Holder Plus, is an Aries framework JavaScript with a Hyperledger Aries bifold UI on top of that. And the ledger, as mentioned, is a Hyperledger Indy instance. So what can you do with Proven, and why would you need it? It can be used to verify who your organization is interacting with. So let's say you're an HR manager, for example, and you're onboarding a new employee. And prior to the hiring process, you need to be exchanging sensitive information with them. So establishing trust between you and between them, using Proven to issue them credentials to either access your system or to message with them, to exchange information in a way in which you can verify their information. The nice thing about it is that it allows for organizations to interact with individuals in a way that doesn't violate their privacy. So respecting HIPAA regulation, GDPR, CPRA in California, and the pending IATIS 2.0 out of the European Union, which hasn't officially been ratified yet. There are amendments in the works, but this puts you in a great position to be able to accommodate those coming regulations and the sensitivities and liabilities that are involved with those. Between the issuers and verifiers, there doesn't need to be a direct database integration on the back end. So let's say you as an organization are issuing a credential to your individual or entity that you're identifying, and they take that credential to either be issued by another organization or internally within your own. They can do that without having to connect into some sort of database on your end to, they don't have to phone home and create another layer of friction there. It uses secure encrypted peer-to-peer communication, and we'll also see that in the demo today with the holder wallet, how communication can occur between two wallets, but there's also that secure transfer of information between the enterprise agents and the agent itself. So it's a very, very light ecosystem that's easily scalable because there aren't those complicated spaghetti noodle integrations on the back end. So as mentioned, easy to integrate in. It's built on interoperable components, open source, open standards. And so the model that this works off of is that when an organization uses Proven, they can purchase it as a package that they can then own as their own solution. It's not a proprietary platform that they're locked into. As much as we love working with organizations and we would love for them to continue to work with us, they're not stuck with a single provider. So they could continue to either work on it internally on their own, we can support it, or they can work with other vendors to continue to build out the functionality. So that's the beauty of working on the Hyperledger open source protocols. As mentioned, we're going to see a small showcase of Holder Plus, which is a digital wallet based on the Hyperledger Aries bifold project, which the Indicio team has been contributing heavily to, and we're excited to have a few members of the community here today that have also contributed to that. So thank you to the community for making the interoperability of these wallets possible. We're also going to see a new feature of this wallet where you can communicate between wallets using DIDCOM messaging. So we'll show how the Holder wallet fits inside the Proven ecosystem as a whole. We'll go ahead and, as I mentioned, we'll be showing the messaging capability between wallets, which we're really excited about. And there's additional functionality and capabilities that will be coming shortly in the future that we're also excited to showcase. But as mentioned, we'll go ahead and we'll do a demo of Proven. Mike will share a screen and walk through that. And as you're watching this presentation, think of the use cases you have in mind where verified identity could be useful to either reduce friction, reduce cost, solve for liability in your particular use case. So Mike, I'll hand it off to you to show Proven.
All right. So there are two pieces to this Proven demo that I want to go through. One is a brief discussion of some of the technical aspects, and then another is a walkthrough of a simple use case, simple workflow. So besides, the stuff that James has already mentioned, Proven takes care of a bunch of things for you that can be a pain when you're trying to get a digital ecosystem up and running. So, for example, Proven comes with a Docker Compose setup with various containers, so you can host your solution on any server that supports Docker, or have it run reliably on a local development environment. Includes some proxy mediators for all of the agents involved, so that when you lose connectivity or whatever, you can get a reliable connection back. And it helps improve security for server-based agents that have to be behind a firewall. It comes with the Indicio public mediator and testnet set up by default. Comes with keys for various encryption points already pre-configured or easy to set up. There's a first-time setup script, so that instead of having to walk through a lot of different steps manually, you can run the first-time setup script, and it will help you get everything set up as you go. It includes an initial schema, an email schema, and comes with a database system that includes migrations. It's got a controller and a UI written in Node.js with Express on the back end and React on the front end. Manages agent state. So Akapi does a good job of being an agent, but sometimes it's tricky to get the state of your connections or your list of credentials, etc., out of Akapi. And so we've provided some ways to make that a little easier. Okay, so that's kind of some of the technical server related, etc., stuff that comes out of the box. Let's do a little walkthrough. So here is the proven issuer home screen, and includes a help section, and then allows you to configure the agent in some ways. So for example, you can change the display names of the agent here. You can change the logo and icons that are displayed. Some applications that refer to a web application, some operating systems or devices use a web app manifest, so you can configure those settings here. Some of the workflows around the email involve sending an email, and there's also a user management system, so you can configure an email account for sending email. And you can white label the agent by adjusting either those logos or icons or any of these common colors that are in the application. So for example, if we want our buttons to be red, we could pick a nice red color and change them. Oh, that's an orange color. I know red. There's red. So you can configure the color settings. Some other things that takes care of for you is you can set up user accounts that would allow you to administer the system, and add, edit, and remove users, resend their information, reset their passwords, things like that, so that you can control who is managing your system, and without having to set that all up yourself. Proven will help you get that running. Let's see what else is in here. Okay, so we mentioned that it helps you manage your state. So it includes a list of contacts. Yep, there we go. So we have a couple testing contacts in here, and you can go ahead and view more information about a particular contact. So for example, we can see that when I was testing the system, I was able to issue myself a credential. You can view the credentials issued to a particular individual. You can also view the full list of credentials and go drill into any particular one. So here's one that I issued to myself earlier. Right now, this list of credentials only shows email credentials, but if you had other types in your system, those would all be shown in one place. So, Proven is not limited to just email credentials, but that's what it comes with configured out of the box for proof of concept and demonstration purposes, so you can get a feel for how things work. The code includes what you need to manage browser sessions and WebSocket connections. And we're working on an HTTP API, so some of the calls already exist. So for example, you can create invitations, you can issue credentials, and you can request presentations at the moment. We're working on adding additional protocols so that you have access to the full power of Akapi, but through an API that helps make it easy. All right, so those are some of the technical details to what Proven offers. So next we're going to go through a simple workflow. And for those of you who are familiar with identity applications, this one may seem trivial and rather simple, but it shows that the whole ecosystem out of the box is ready to do things. And it should be understandable for everybody to follow. So we're going to take 3 main steps. We're going to prove that I control a particular email address. We're going to issue myself an email credential, and then we're going to take that email credential from my holder to our verifier and present that credential to verify that it's correct and accurate and came from the issuer. So we're going to simulate being just me, and the demonstration comes with a self-serve email credential system. So I'm going to type in my email address here. And once I submit this, it's going to send me a personalized invitation. Okay, CAPTCHA, stairs, don't think I missed any. Okay, I sent it quickly. Let's hit the button more than once. So okay, so I sent myself an invitation with a unique code. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so I can get in my email without exposing everything. All right, I'll share the screen again. So you can see here that there's an invitation in my email account. We'll zoom in a little bit. Text does not want to scale. All right. So we'll follow that link. And you can see my unique code in the URL. And now I have a unique invitation for receiving an email credential. So the next thing to do is use holder to connect to our enterprise issuer and receive a credential offer. So on the right here, you'll see Holder Plus. It's like James mentioned, it's built on AFJ and bifold, and can be white labeled. So you could swap out this logo and icon and text, etc. And it's got a little bit of an intro for people to understand what a wallet is. We'll go ahead and get started and scroll through these terms. And the privacy policy. All right, asks me to pick a name that I'd be comfortable sharing with financial or legal institutions, etc. So we'll put my name in here, pick a PIN number. And initialize our wallet. All right, so here we are ready to connect. So I'm going to press our connect button here, and we're going to scan this QR code. All right, so now we're connected to Proven, and we've received our credential offer. So you can see the pieces of my email address. So they have them separated and combined and a verified timestamp. So I'm happy to receive this credential. This is a basic credential, but you could use it in various contexts. Like, so for example, if you were trying to communicate with a customer, if you were trying to have one part of your business prove to another system in your business that someone has legitimate participation in your business accounts and systems, you could use it with some extension to set up a login system, a number of things like that. So I'm going to accept my credential, and it's been added to my wallet. So our next step would be to go to the verifier and show that we've got a real credential. So we're going to go over to the verifier screen. I'm going to make sure that I've got a good invitation here, and we're going to connect. All right, so we can see we've got two contacts, proven and the proven verifier, and there's some information requested. So the verifier is asking for my email. You'll notice that it's a selective disclosure. It's not asking for all of the fields. So that's an example that shows that you can do things to help preserve privacy, only ask for the information that you need. So I'm going to go ahead and share that. And on both screens, it shows the information was received and the credential was verified. So, so like we said earlier, this is just a simple demonstration, but you know, with the APIs that are available, for example, the verifier has an API where you could link with an external system and send a notification that says, yeah, the verification occurred and this email is kosher. So go ahead and trigger additional actions that are part of your existing systems. You could do, you know, things like logins or so on once this verification occurs. And, you know, this is a nice simple use case where once you set proven up, you can see that the entire ecosystem is up and running. So that's our demo of the trust triangle and the full ecosystem with the issuer, the holder, the verifier, and then the underlying technology like the mediators and the network, DIDCOM and NonCreds. Next, we're going to do some secure communications. So we're going to connect to this other wallet here, to our John Doe wallet. So John Doe is going to display a QR code on his wallet, and then Mike Ebert is going to scan his QR code from his. And so now I have a new contact. I have John Doe here. So I'm going to two-hand this here, one phone in each hand. And so John is going to type me a message and say hi. And since I'm feeling a little bit mischievous, I'm going to switch and I'm going to send him a response in Russian. Bifold supports UTF-8 for messaging, so I can send Russian characters. And John's confused by this. He says, huh? And saying, sorry. Just having some fun. And this is cool because these two wallets have generated an invitation and exchanged their pairwise DIDs. They're communicating over DIDCOM and the messages are encrypted. So we have a peer-to-peer connection here and it's all secure and happy. They're each using their own mediator and all the exchanges is going just fine. And now they can chat in a secure context. So that's a cool feature that Holder includes that we've recently added that we're pretty excited about. One of the examples here is you could, for example, say, we're going to connect to an agent. We're going to request their email credential, and then the server-based agent, you know, could also have a messaging box like this, and you could communicate securely between a customer or an employee over secure channels and not worry about your information getting lost. So with that, I'm going to turn some time back over to James here because the demo is complete.
All right. Hey, thanks, Mike. Okay, let me pull this up here. Okay, so yeah, as Mike just demonstrated what comes in the box, here's a quick summary of what you just saw. So it comes with a verifiable credential schema, so a flexible cloud-hosted template for creating a verifiable credential. Comes with the issuer and verifier agents, and it also comes with along with the mobile app, the digital wallet, and the mediator agent or agents that are needed to support the mobile apps. Also comes with machine readable governance capability, and this is crucial for scaling your use case as you bring on different issuing and verifying organizations and creating the governance rules needed for your ecosystem to operate in a way that satisfies your organization's needs and accepting certain type of credentials or requesting certain types of information from the holders of credentials. It also comes with, as default, a connection to a distributed ledger network, an Indy network of choice. Comes with support and training offered by our team, along with maintenance and updates to make sure that you have the most up-to-date system, especially as the open source community and standards evolve. Having that ongoing support is a good way to stay interoperable with other systems as well. As mentioned, all these components are based off of publicly available standards models and repos that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. So I saw in the chat the question about what are some of the top B2B use cases or customers, who needs this, who's asking for this, and who's looking for this. Proven has come as a result of the open source work that we've done, along with our experience working with our clients and customers who need a way to issue credentials to people or things in their ecosystems. So some of the top use cases, as you can imagine, are in industries where it's highly regulated and there's a lot of liability if identity can't be established. So banking and finance, for example, satisfying those KYC requirements needed for customers to be able to do certain things with them or interact with them, transfer money, open up new accounts, those sorts of actions. Travel, obviously, there's a lot of different areas where identity comes into play. Before you board an airplane, there's an identity component to that. Crossing a border, identity checks that happen. With healthcare, for example, consenting to information being released or shared between organizations, a lot of HIPAA-related healthcare privacy implications that come with health data being transferred. Interestingly enough, in the healthcare space, there are organizations that don't want anything to do with a customer's healthcare information, but have to in some way interact with it. This is where verifiable credentials are nice, because that information remains with the holder of the credential and doesn't have to be stored by a third party in some sort of centralized database, putting them at some sort of risk of a breach of that information. So those are some examples of organizations that are using it, and those organizations have approached us, and the feedback that we've gotten that led to Proven was they're looking for a way to quickly set up an ecosystem. They want to start issuing credentials, and they want to start verifying credentials, and they don't want to have to do all the dirty work of figuring out how to make it interoperable, having to dig through all the repos. They just want to solve their pain point. They just want to be able to make it easier for their customers or internally for whichever department needs to handle that. So I hope that answers the question, but it's across many industries where identity plays a role, not just with people, but also with devices. Being able to identify a machine or an IoT device and allowing for secure access to that device as well. So we're seeing traction with IoT, the spatial web area too. I'm sure you might be familiar with one of the use cases where components of Proven and the open source underlying technology has been put into action with Ceta, Aviation IT technology provider, along with the government of Aruba, using verifiable credentials for passenger health information, as well as digital travel credentials, being able to have essentially a passport represented in the form of a verifiable credential. And connected to the holder of that credential through biometrics and facial recognition at the airport. So lots of different ways to use Proven and integrate into your system. Indicio provides support options to install it, to help integrate it, or we can simply provide training on how to do that, provide instructions. We can help configure. If there's any customized capability that you need that could be added on top of that. It can be a white labeled solution, rebranded for you or for your customers, however you need it. And we can help curate it in a way that solves not only your problems, but your partners and anyone who you add into your ecosystem. You have that base ecosystem of issuers, holders, and verifiers, and then as it expands, there will be other organizations that want to consume the credentials that your organization offers. That opens up new revenue opportunities to be a credential provider, new opportunities for your customers to interact with partnering organizations or within a consortium of some sort, or within an ecosystem where you have interest in being involved. So lots of flexibility with Proven and what you can do with it. So we want to invite everyone to go ahead and get your first verifiable credential today. And Mike, if you have a link to on our website, we have where you can start using Proven Issuer to receive your credential in your holder wallet and connect to the Proven verifier to have that verified. And you can download Holder with the discount code that we're going to be providing here in the chat in just a second. So feel free to go ahead and try it out and get started. And we're happy to answer any questions. So feel free to reach out and we can help get you going on a use case or a project where you could use verifiable credentials. But yeah, I think we can go ahead and open up for Q&A. I know we have some questions coming through here in the chat. Let's see.
So I'm going to read off a couple that were typed and answered a little earlier, just in case people haven't read those and if they have subsequent questions. So one of the questions was, why are we still using an email and a password for the user authentication system? And could we pivot to DIDs? And the answer there is that yes, we absolutely could pivot to DIDs or credential-based login. Just to get started, we thought let's focus on issuing and verifying the credentials that are important to the business use case first. And we'll just go with a simple existing flow for users. But we're working on making DIDs or credentials the default for logging into the Proven admin screens as well. So that's coming. It's a good thought. Another question was, is there a way to see the DID which is generated for the user? So in the enterprise agent, in the list of contacts, it would be relatively straightforward to display that DID. And then I don't know if we would want to in a mobile agent for making it user-friendly for end users as much, but theoretically that's possible as well if it's something that you wanted to do. And then finally, Kyle asked, is Proven a hosted service run by Indicio? If so, is there a different service for the issuer and the verifier? And the answer to that one is right now, it's not a SaaS platform. Indicio offers hosting, and you can also use your own hosting. Eventually, we'll have a SaaS platform where you can sign up and provision an agent and specify a type, set up payment, etc., without having to interact with either the hosting config yourself or with needing Indicio to assist you with that. But that's coming down the road while we focus on some other functional priorities in the short term. And that's a read through of the questions that were already typed out. Let's see if there are any others.
Thank you, James and Mike, very much for this very interesting presentation. And for the attendees, feel free to also raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can also ask your question live. Oh, Mike, I think we got something coming in.
Looks like question about Web 3.0. Web 3.0 is supposed to have blockchain/security built in. Admittedly, my understanding of 3.0 is weak. Could you talk about your relationship to Web 3.0? Is it competition or does it facilitate Indicio? So often when people think of Web 3.0, they think of all of the use cases that have to do with the common blockchains that people are familiar with, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, cryptocurrencies and smart contracts and things like that. And that technology is really useful for things that need to be verified publicly, and that you're okay with being out on a ledger that everyone can read. And those solutions put all of their data out on those blockchain ledgers. The identity use case that we have here relies somewhat on some of the same technology. So the DID and the keys and the relationship of an issuer to a particular schema, and the schemas, those are stored on a ledger where everyone can view them and get at them at any time. And that's the public component of the solution that helps make this work really smoothly. But all of the sensitive private data that is issued by the issuer lives just inside the credential that the holder has, and it's secure and under their control. So in some ways, they utilize some of the complementary technologies, some of the same things, but because the use case is private versus public, it's managed differently for some parts of it. And Daniel Buckner and Block and are looking at, they've branded this a kind of a Web 5.0 solution, where you take the best of Web 3.0 with these public ledgers and cryptocurrencies and smart contracts, and you pair them with the privately held identity information that is in self-sovereign identity or verifiable credentials, and you put the two of those together, and you can manage both your public and your private data in the way that makes sense for each use case. And is security is part of both solutions. You have keys and encryption top to bottom all over the place, and so you put the two together, and then you get what they call Web 5.0. Hopefully that's a good answer to that question.
And what's interesting here with the blockchain, the blockchain's involvement in a trusted digital ecosystem, it is really the most boring part about it. The really cool stuff is happening at the agent level between the organizations that are able to verify identity on the end. The ledger's purpose is obviously just for the anchoring. Some call it a trust anchor of sorts. So a lot of the enterprises that we work with, when they hear the term blockchain, there's a lot of misconceptions or preconceived notions they have that come from the crypto world, where there's the speculative aspect of it, where cryptocurrency involved. In this case, it's not like that. So sometimes we avoid the term blockchain because it could be confusing, or go down a tangent that we wouldn't necessarily want to go down. So decentralized identity network or ledger, because in this case there's not any sort of proof of work or mining going on. It's just it's just a check of a verification of a transaction that's very, very energy efficient. So I guess you could say a lot of differences from the traditional Web3 understanding, but involves some common aspects of it, if that makes sense.
So one of the questions was, what are some of the top B2B use cases our customers are asking for? So I suppose we could talk a little bit about some of those. Most of the information that people need a verifiable credential solution for are pieces of information that they want to have be held privately, not exposed to the whole universe, and that requires verification and security. And so, for example, in some of the banking use cases, you need to go through a KYC, a know your customer process. And once you go through that process, it's really nice to use a NonCreds and Aries wallets for recording that information, because you can record it in a way where you can verify who issued it and prove that it wasn't tampered with. So you can rely on the issuing party to say, I can trust this KYC'd data because someone already looked into it. Someone reliable proved that this data was there. And using a NonCreds and Aries wallets, there's a level of holder binding. So you know that that credential was issued to this particular wallet originally and has not been fiddled with or moved to another wallet. So as long as you trust the wallet perhaps the wallet uses a fingerprint or a face scan or something like that to tie this to the individual, then you can rely on that KYC verified data to still be relevant. So you don't have to go through the KYC process over and over again. So that's a case with like, say, banking. With the travel use case, it's public knowledge that we're doing work on the digital travel credential and making that work with a non-cred equivalent so that you can travel and prove your identity based on your passport. So those are most of the use cases are starting with identity, but there are some other use cases that that go beyond that to say there's perhaps accounting data where you want the data to be verifiable, but for a private organization shouldn't be published broadly. We're also working on some mixed use cases where someone asked about the oil and gas. There's one use case where we're working on some emissions data where we're helping some organizations publish and then share and then have their emissions data verified so that they can show the world that they're keeping track of their emissions and report what their emissions or their offsets are. So those are a couple cases, but generally speaking, it's information that needs to be privately held, but also verifiable, and mostly to do with identity.
I just saw a question come in from Jacques. I noticed Hyperledger Aries and Indy as code bases. Would the credentials meet European Union's privacy requirements, or a NonCreds code base could be used instead? Mike, that might be a better question for you, but one thing that comes to mind is one of the amendments in AIDAS 2.0 that is calling for ZKP capability as well as selective disclosure. That's one of the reasons that we use a NonCreds as a way to satisfy those requirements, although they're not officially ratified or AIDAS isn't officially in place yet. But that's the power of a NonCreds shows how that can be handled.
So some of the European privacy concerns and legislations are to they want people to be able to privately hold their data. They are asking for selective disclosure, so you only disclose what you need to disclose. There's some situations that require zero knowledge proofs, and there are lots of credential formats. Some of them are not, they're working towards, but aren't ready to do selective disclosures or predicate or non-disclosing proofs like that, zero knowledge proofs. And then the holder binding is another thing that some other solutions struggle with a little bit. So if the latest European privacy legislation that's being considered, if it were ratified right this second, as far as I'm aware, a NonCreds are the only credential format that meets all of those privacy concerns. So if you have European privacy concerns, a NonCreds are a very good solution because they meet those requirements.
So real quick, for the discount codes for the holder app, I believe it's one discount code is available per email address in case you're having an issue getting that. So just a heads up.
So in the last 3 minutes here, Helen has prompted me to talk about, she's reminded me that I should talk about my work with machine readable governance. And we're proud of that work. That's some data formats, some code, and some agreements or precedents or best practices for encoding the laws and the rules, the processes that are agreed upon by participating organizations and individuals, taking that and encoding it in a way that our agents and our software can help us to obey and follow and understand those procedures. And Proven is going to include decentralized ecosystem governance. So we're going to make available code that will be able to read those governance files and interpret what's encoded there. To look at, we're starting with who are the trusted issuers and verifiers, and eventually we'll be adding other roles and the ability to script some workflows, some actions. and we'll be working on how to publish, discover, share, ingest, export, etc. Work with those files that make those workflows trustworthy and understandable for ecosystems and overlapping and interconnected ecosystems.
Well, thank you very much, Mike, and thank you very much, James. We are at a time, so I think we need to wrap up. But thank you very much. You covered a lot of very interesting and useful information. And thank you to everybody joining us. If you have any questions for either us or Indicio team, please feel free to reach out to us or the Indicio team. And as mentioned, all of the recording and also the slides will be available on the Hyperledger webinar library. Now, before we say goodbye, I would also like to invite you to join our Discord channel, join our Discord community, where you can explore all the channels related to our projects, special interest groups, working groups, and more. We have a very active Discord community, and you are very welcome to join us there. We have some other upcoming webinars and workshops, and you can find those on our events website. And there was some questions from the YouTube today. So the best way to stay up to date is go to our event website. So one particular workshop that I would like to highlight is with Indicio, and it's about building your identity solution using Hyperledger Aries. It's going to be held on November 10th. Again, thank you everybody for watching, and thank you so much again, James and Mike, for this wonderful presentation. And again, feel free to reach out to us if you need any other information. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.